Dr. Christopher West here, the Theology, the Body Guy. In this episode of our series, The Faith from A to Z, with the help of John Paul's TOB, we're going to look at why the Catechism begins Part 1, Chapter 1, with a reflection on desire. What is that ache in our hearts, and what are we all looking for? Let's take a look. Hey, if you're new to this channel, we are all about demonstrating how our earthly bodies reveal heavenly divine mysteries. If you want to dive deeply into questions about what it means to be human, you're going to want to become part of this community and subscribe. And click the notification bell, leave a comment. All of that compels YouTube to share the gospel with the world. Not a bad deal. So this is episode 8 of our series, The Faith from A to Z, with the help of John Paul II's TOB, which is a tour of the CCC, Catechism of the Catholic Church. We are looking at Chapter 1 of Part 1 of the Catechism. Check out the previous videos if you want to catch up in the series. But here we go. The Catechism begins, Part 1, Chapter 1, with this bold declaration. The desire for God is written in the human heart, because man is created by God and for God, and God never ceases to draw man to himself. Only in God will he find the truth and happiness he never stops searching for. There is an ache deep in the heart of every human being. The church calls it the capax Dei, the capacity for God. It's also called, believe it or not, borrowing her language from the Greeks, the church calls this hunger, this yearning that only God can fill. The church calls it eros, E-R-O-S, from which we get the English word erotic. But don't confuse the Greek word eros with the other Greek word porneia. Porneia is the inversion of eros, a self-seeking eros. But the word eros means, and here I quote St. John Paul II's Theology of the Body, eros is the upward impulse of the human spirit towards the true, the good, and the beautiful. Capital T, truth, capital G, goodness, capital B, beauty, is what we're ultimately looking for. Eros, therefore, the church tells us, is our yearning for God. Capital T, truth, capital G, goodness, capital B, beauty. That word desire, if you look at the origin of the word, it's actually pretty interesting. It comes from the Latin desidere, which means to look to the stars or to await what the stars may bring. And here we gain a really profound insight into what happens when we aim our desire for God at anything less than God. What happens? Quite literally, disaster. Because disaster, aster is another word for stars in Latin, disaster means we've aimed our desire away from the stars. My brothers and sisters, we all have this ache. What are we looking for? What is this hunger? What is this yearning? Listen again to how the Catechism says it. The desire for God is written in the human heart. Only in God will we find the truth and happiness we never stop searching for. You know, oftentimes Christianity gets this bad reputation, like it's opposed to human desire. No. Christianity is not about suffocating the longings of the human heart, and here I'm quoting Pope Benedict XVI. Rather, Christianity is about freeing the longings of the heart so they can reach their true height. What is the true height to which our longings are meant to launch us? Nothing short of participating in the eternal ecstasy and joy of God himself. Christianity is not opposed to desire. It's opposed to false fulfillments of desire. It's opposed to counterfeit satisfactions. Christianity is the invitation to the utmost infinite satisfaction of the heart's deepest longings, which can only be found in communion, in eternal ecstatic union with God. The Catechism goes on to say, the dignity of man rests above all on the fact that he is called to communion with God. Now let's put our TOB glasses on here, Theology of the Body glasses, and let's see how we can penetrate the meaning of this passage from the Catechism. We are called to communion with God. How do we know that? Where do we see that? Look at the body. The sexual difference is itself a call to holy communion. A man's body makes no sense by itself. A woman's body makes no sense by itself. Seen in light of each other, we see the call to a holy communion. And the holy communion of man and woman was created by God to be a glimmer, a shadow, a sign, a sacrament in this world of our call to eternal communion with God. The Bible begins with the marriage of man and woman. It ends with the marriage of Christ and the church, God and humanity. And the whole purpose of our creation as male and female is to point us to the communion we are destined for with God forever, in ecstasy, in bliss, in infinitized fulfillment of eros, our longing for God. This is what makes man a religious being. This is how the Catechism puts it. This is paragraph 28. In many ways, throughout history, down to the present day, men have given expression to their quest for God. That quest, that looking, that seeking, that searching, that hunger for God, as we've been saying, is called eros. We see this in human beings' religious beliefs and behavior. We see it in their prayers, sacrifices, rituals, meditations, and so forth. These forms of religious expression, despite the ambiguities they often bring with them, are so universal that one may call man a religious being. Now let's press into that word religious. It comes from the Latin religare, which means to form a bond. And from this perspective, we can affirm with Cardinal Cantalamessa, the papal preacher, that human sexuality is the first school of religion. What do we mean? Written right into our bodies, again, is a call to form bonds. It is the bond, the union of man and woman that brings life into the world. Tragedy in our world today, if human sexuality is the first school of religion, it would seem that we're flunking out. We no longer understand human sexuality as this call to form bonds. And when the bond of man and woman breaks down, we no longer recognize that we are called to form a lasting, indeed eternal bond with God. This is religion in its most beautiful sense. And as one of my former professors, Monsignor Lorenzo Albacetti, put it, religion is either the honest quest for the satisfaction of all the original desires of the heart, or it is a dangerous, divisive, harmful waste of time. My brothers and sisters, the first thing Jesus says in the Gospel of John is not follow all these rules or you're going to hell. The first thing Jesus says in the Gospel of John is this: what do you want? What are you looking for? What are you seeking? There are many things that can block this search for lasting fulfillment, for everlasting bliss for God. The Catechism goes on to say, paragraph 29, but this intimate and vital bond, there it is, religion, to form bonds, the intimate and vital bond of man to God can be forgotten, can be overlooked, or even explicitly rejected by man. Such attitudes can have different causes. Revolt against evil is a biggie. religious ignorance or indifference. Maybe we've repressed or tried to suffocate that yearning in our heart. The cares and riches of the world. Maybe we're taking that yearning for God to the pleasures of this world, expecting finite pleasure to do what only infinite joy can do. The scandal of the bad example on the part of believers. That's a biggie. I mean, when I was raised in the Catholic Church in the 70s and 80s, I basically got the impression from my religion teachers that my desires were bad. I needed to repress it and follow all these rules over here, and then I'd be a good, upstanding Christian citizen. I was raised on what you might call the starvation diet gospel, right? Desire bad, repress it, follow the rules. And that's why in my teenage years, I became a quick convert to what I call the fast food gospel, which is the secular culture's promise of immediate gratification for those hungers, right? I don't know about you, but I'm a hungry guy. And if the only choice for my hunger is fast food over here or starve myself over here, I'm going for the fast food, right? I'm going for the chicken nuggets. Give me a Big Mac and give me lots of them. And don't lie to me. The fast food tastes really good going down. But if that becomes your steady diet, how are you going to feel after a while, right? The grease and the sodium is inevitably going to catch up to you and you're going to feel sick inside. Well, that's a picture of me in my college years, right? And it put me on my knees begging God, if you exist, you better show me why you gave me all these desires, because they're getting me and everybody I know into a heck of a lot of trouble. What is the point here? Why did you give us these yearnings? Well, my brothers and sisters, listen to this. Let the hearts of those who seek the Lord rejoice. Paragraph 30 starts there. Why? It's quoting the Psalms. Why? Because seekers find. That hunger in your heart, do not be satisfied with counterfeit fulfillments. Pursue, seek, ask, knock. The door will be opened. Seek and you will find. There is a banquet that corresponds to the hunger. Christianity is not a starvation diet. Christianity is an invitation to an infinite feast, an infinite banquet that indeed the scripture calls the wedding feast of the Lamb. God didn't give us these desires to have us starve. God gave us these desires to lead us to ultimate fulfillment. And the Catechism ends this section right there with a quote from Saint Augustine. This is paragraph 30. You have made us for yourself, O Lord, and our heart is restless until it rests in you. My brothers and sisters, I have so much more to share with you about this hunger and how we can seek and find its satisfaction. Check out all the other videos on this channel. Consider becoming a part of our patron community where you can get exclusive ongoing formation in this theology of the body. I invite you also to consider taking a course with me from the Theology of the Body Institute. The schedule of online and in-person courses are below in the notes. Until next time, may our eyes continue to be opened to who we really are.